Hello, and welcome to the CIDDL Research and Practice Brief Series. The purpose of this series is to have conversations about the innovative use of technology in special education, early childhood related services, and leadership personnel preparation programs. Today, we have Dr. Sarah Nagro as our guest expert to share with us her research and practice on video-based reflections. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Perfect. All right, so our first question is, can you tell us about your research and the issues you're trying to address in teacher preparation by using video-based reflections?
Sure, thank you. I think the place to start is to say that the big picture for me is how do we focus on retention through preparation? Teacher retention issues are really something that we face. We know that there's chronic teacher shortages in the United States, particularly in the area of special education. And so with the work I'm doing, I'm trying to understand how can I better prepare teacher candidates when they're with me in their preparation programs to feel like they can sustain when they enter the field and have capacity to be able to continue to improve their practice and develop as professionals. So I know they're not going to be experts on day one, but I do want them to be able to leave their preparation feeling like they can be successful as a new teacher who's just beginning, who has the capacity to take on these new challenges and also to continue to improve their practice. We know that a lot of teacher candidates report feeling underprepared when they leave their preparation. And so the research that I'm doing is really about how do we help them to see the things that they're doing in their preparation program as useful tools they can take with them into the classroom to be able to use those skills when they get there to help themselves, because not every new teacher has a mentor that's accessible to them to be able to walk them through every step of the profession as they transition. And so if we can do something with video-based reflection practices in their preparation that shows them this is a very useful skill, I can take the skill with me when I get into the profession to help me to analyze my own practice. I think that is a very successful approach, or at least I hope, promising approach to being able to focus on retention through preparation. So that requires starting early. That requires building understanding of what is video analysis, what is video-based reflection, why do we even care about all of these pieces, why do we care about reflection? So that's what I'm focusing on in my research. How do we start building those foundational skills early during their preparation that they then can take that with them into their first jobs?
That was awesome. I completely agree. The chronic shortage is affecting everyone, but especially special education. So what opportunities do you think video-based reflections may have for improving higher personnel and related services programs that prepare professionals who serve students with disabilities? How does it help the children with special needs?
So I think that it's important because, well, it's very flexible. So I think we'll probably get into some of the details about what this is that I'm talking about. But one of the nice things about, helping teacher candidates who are going to work with students with disabilities is the idea that every student is going to have unique needs. And you can read every textbook that there is on all the different characteristics and aspects of the profession. But when you get into the profession, you realize that each student presents in a unique way with unique challenges, has a different set of background experiences, different cultural experiences. And so they're going to come to you at a different point. And so having a skill, something like video-based reflection or video-based analysis, where you can customize the way that you're thinking about your own practice as a teacher will only help you to then be able to individualize your attention to your students. And so we can talk a little bit more concretely about that, but I think that's one of the benefits of focusing more on how do I take this and look at this activity as not just a preparation, something on my checklist of things I do while I'm in my teacher preparation, but rather a really useful professional development tool that I can then take with me when I get into the classroom and understand that I can systematically study my own practice to figure out more concretely using data how to then improve my approach to teaching students who are, at the hardest to reach, at points where they come to you where they're feeling like they haven't seen success, and you are the teacher who's going to make that happen for them. So this is just one approach to helping support that.
Awesome. So I know you work with video self-analysis and video-based reflections. Why is having the teacher involved in assessing their own instruction so important? What difference does it make when you compare it to, like, if I were to evaluate their performance?
Sure. So let me explain a little bit about what I'm talking about, and then I can get into that. So if during our preparation, we usually approach this field as a student learner. So we go through our K-12 learning experience. We're told, here's your homework, here's the test, here are the things you have to do to get past each grade, each kind of hoop that you're jumping through as a student to advance to the next level. And we bring that mindset, that student mindset, with us into our teacher preparation program, because that's the way that we've been successful through school thus far. And so what tends to happen is we think about our preparation as just a set of items on a checklist that we have to complete. So things like, oh, I've got to do 5 lesson plans, and I've got to write 2 reflection journal entries, and I've got to be observed 4 times. And what ends up happening is it's a very disjointed learning experience. And rather than seeing these things as meaningful engagement opportunities into the profession, it just becomes a list of compliance list. I've got to get these things done in order to graduate. And so what my hope is that we can work on having a more cohesive, comprehensive learning experience for our candidates, that through practice-based learning opportunities and through their field experiences, we're giving them a structure to engage in the profession that is scaffolded and supported so that it's more meaningful. If you just ask teacher candidates to reflect, or teachers to reflect on their learning, typically what happens is they will summarize for you chronologically. Here's what happened during the lesson, start to finish, here's where we started and here's where we ended. And it's very superficial. It's just retelling of the events. Or they'll add in some emotional components to it. Like, it felt really good. It felt like the kids were enjoying it. I was frustrated with this student at this point, or I realized that I was going too slow. We weren't going to finish. And so I was rushing. And so I didn't check with how the students were doing. And I think that by the end, they didn't understand. So it's all very emotion based, because there's not much else to go on besides what were your feelings about this at the end, and what do you think happened, memory based. So what I'm hoping to do is to introduce something that's much more data driven, and that's much more based on concrete information. So I focus on video analysis as an approach that teacher candidates can use to think about their practice in a way that's, again, cohesive, comprehensive, and it's something that's structured in data. So I use this cycle that I call the 4 R's. So reflect, review, record. If I can't get it right, who can? Record, review, reflect, revise. So record yourself teaching a portion of a lesson, review that lesson segment back, and look at it through a very scaffolded approach. And we can talk about what that is. It can be something as simple as whatever checklist you're already using in your courses, you have them focus on that. It could be looking at Archer and Hughes, explicit instruction, elements of explicit instruction, saying we're going to focus on those. It could be, I'm going to focus on my questioning techniques. I'm going to look at specifically how I'm asking. I use the Danielson framework quite often because that's something that teacher candidates will be evaluated on when they get into the profession. So it helps me to show them, this is what you're going to be looked at when using this scale when you get into the profession. So it's good for you to see it now, understand what it means. I think that the Danielson framework does a nice job of establishing that not every teacher is a distinguished teacher on the first day, and that's okay. There are levels of acceptable, satisfactory teaching that can take place, and they give you some anchors as to what to look for. And the idea behind any of these, whichever you choose, it could be Marzano, it could be your university forms that you're currently using during your formal observations. I would just suggest that whatever the framework is, that it's consistent so that we get that cohesive piece emphasized. And so The idea here being that we're teaching candidates what to look for. How do you review a video? Because it can be overwhelming to just say, okay, watch this back, tell me how you did. They're going to resort to, this is how I felt, this is what happened from start to finish. We want them to analyze more, deeply, thinking about what decisions did I make? Why did I make those decisions? Were they successful decisions? How do I know? Looking at student outcomes. How do I know that my teaching choices were useful or not based on student outcomes? So you can capture more of that information using video. The nice piece about it is you can set it up. You don't have to think much about it. You can play it back. You can watch 5 minutes. You can watch an hour, depending on what your goals are for yourself as the teacher candidate. You start to drive your learning experience. Again, I would emphasize that I think the preparation program should offer structure and support to that. I use what I call reflection matrices or reflection matrix, which is basically a graphic organizer that teacher candidates can use to help focus and narrow their review process of what they're looking for in their videos. It's very overwhelming to just hand them a video of themselves teaching and say, okay, write 5 reflections or whatever it might be. Again, we want to move away from that compliance mindset and more towards a learner mindset where the focus is on the engagement in the activity. How is this going to help me to improve my practice for the next time I'm in front of students? So putting the ownership on the teacher candidate themselves, showing them that they're the change agent in the classroom is one of my main foci. I don't want to hear them saying, well, it was because of the students that I was unable to do X, Y, or Z, or it was because of my supervisor or my co-teacher that I was unable to do X, Y, or Z, or accomplish these goals that I had set out for myself. By them recording themselves and then, using that as performance feedback for themselves, they are the driver, they are the change agent, and they start to see themselves in that capacity. And I think that's critically important, because if you're in a working environment that you feel like you have the empowerment to make changes for the better, you will probably feel like you can be successful, and then you really will find success in that career path. And so if we can help our teacher candidates early to see themselves as the change agent through such activities where someone else is not saying, I watched your video and here's what I think, you did a great job. Now go over a reflection on how I told you did a great job. That's not the same thing as saying, watch your video back. Look for these key implementation measures or markers that we were focusing on, whether it's your precision in your language, how you used your vocabulary, whatever it might be, that target goal that you're focusing on, but they themselves are learning to recognize those behaviors in their own teaching. So you're working on multiple skills through this one activity. And so then the reflect piece is where they complete that reflection matrix. They, in the way that I structure it, it's a graphic organizer. It has the, 3 to 5 teaching elements that they're focusing on. And for each of those, they need to describe, analyze, judge, apply. So describe what the teaching choice they made, analyze why they made that choice, judge the success of that decision based on student outcomes, and then apply these insights to future plans for teaching. In the future, I will increase the use of this strategy because it was really successful. All 12 students were able to complete the task within the allotted time, or in the future, I will probably switch and not use this again. And instead I will choose this other approach because it seemed like I lost half of the class when I was doing my comprehension checks. They were feeling unconfident. So I want to see that they're thinking about what insights they found through this observation that will change and improve their teaching moving forward. And that's really the driver here, is what are we going to do better the next time? How are we going to sustain success and improve on areas of growth? So record, review with structure, reflect with structure, and then revise. So we ask them during that reflection period to start thinking about those application statements. How can you apply these insights to future lessons? And then you want to hopefully see, as they revise their approach to instruction, that some of that is captured there. And again, the cycle continues and you can measure growth over time. If they focus on the same goals, you can see, you can track noteworthy changes. They can collect data on themselves. And again, all of this is to drive home the idea that the teacher is the change agent in their own environment. So a lot to take in there. I'm happy to share some links to some of those resources as we continued our conversation, but record, review, reflect, revise, and describe, analyze, judge, apply. The 4 dimensions of reflection that I use to help move teacher candidates away from that superficial description towards more critical analysis of their own performance.
Awesome. I think one of the cool things that I liked when I'm looking at technology and its use for a teacher preparation is we always think technology as being so expensive. And when I was reading your research, I found that, I mean, this is such a cost-effective way to implement change. So are there any other specific examples of how a teacher preparation program could implement video-based reflection in their current practice, or do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, that's a great point. I always think of video-based reflection activities as being flexible, robust, and feasible. So flexible in that you can target whatever goals you're looking to focus on within one course or an internship. Robust in that it gives you so much data to analyze and look at. You can use one video session and look at it from multiple different lenses. So one video session then becomes multiple learning opportunities. And feasible, which is what you're really emphasizing here, it doesn't have to be expensive. We all have, our cameras on hand. And so being able to set up that camera with an inexpensive tripod, I usually get them on Amazon, those little like snake $7 tabletop tripods. Setting your camera up, you can add a fish lens if you want to capture more of the classroom. So there's a few inexpensive things you can do to add on to either your laptop or your smartphone that will allow you to really capture what's in the classroom. You can add on microphones if you want to, but it's not always about production value. As long as you're able to hear what the teacher is saying, I think if a teacher candidate is saying and doing, I think that's the emphasis for me, at least. It's not always been on the student responses as much as it has been on the teacher behaviors, because I want the teachers to see themselves as the change agent. So I really want them to focus on themselves. So that makes the recording even more feasible. I want to protect student identities. I think that's critically important that we do that, and we consider, informing parents about the recording practices and how we are protecting student identities. And so using something that's very inexpensive that can follow just the teacher around helps with that. Other applications for this, which I would encourage all of those of us who are interested in building in skills like reflection and being able to analyze and self-evaluate, would be to start early before the teacher candidate goes into their field experience with some early introductory type prerequisite skill building almost type video-based activities. So where teacher candidates start off with reflecting on videos of other teachers so they can learn, how do you watch video evidence? What are you looking for? How do you see teaching choices in action? It's one thing to read about, using mnemonics as an evidence-based practice, and then you're watching the video and saying, oh my gosh, it happened so fast. How, being able to say, how did the teacher plan for this? And so learning what to look for in the video, what's irrelevant versus relevant information in that video is a great first step. Early activities, you can start teaching teacher candidates, how do you look at the practices of others? It's low risk. It's inexpensive. There's 1,000,001 videos. As long as you have vetted them before showing them, there's 1,000,001 videos you can find for free online. I think showing exemplar videos and non-exemplar videos are both really helpful discussion points for teacher candidates to say, oh, look, every teacher is not that distinguished, perfect teacher who is in this fabulously prepared video. So using inexpensive video clips, it can be 2 minutes and there's so much to talk about. And then once they're comfortable with some of those early and introductory foundational activities, then you can shift to making it more complicated. Some things like role playing, again, simulations can be expensive and fancy, and I know University of Central Florida knows all about that, but they can also be really affordable. So having a teacher candidate in their classroom do some role play simulation type activities where they set their own phone up or their own laptop up, and they teach a group of their peers, focusing on just one small aspect of a lesson. And then right away, in a timely manner, watching that video back for themselves. It doesn't have to be about evaluative activities where they're turning their video in and somebody else is watching it, because that adds a lot of pressure. But if the teacher candidate is just in their class, they're focusing on the classroom management strategies and the classroom management course that they're taking, and they want to practice one of those discrete strategies and then watch it back. Again, very feasible in terms of time and expense. Nobody has to see it. They can delete the video file and save space on their phone if they want to. They can save it to their Dropbox or their Google, whatever they want to do with that video. It's just a simulation. It's not a role play. There's no, students at risk of identities being shared. And so then again, you're getting another layer of complexity there that's added on. So now they're watching their own performance in a low stakes setting. No students are at risk here. And they can start to build some more of those prerequisite skills so that by the time they get to their field experience and it's time for those, 4 video reflections that are required by the end of the semester, they understand why that would be an expectation, why it's helpful, why reflective practice is a meaningful thing that's in every professional standard that we can review, says an emphasis on lifelong learning and through reflection. There's a reason it's always there. It really does help to be able to develop those skills, but it takes time. And I think that the feasibility of this particular method allows for it to follow the student across time. I'm not asking for any expensive subscriptions, although there are many opportunities out there that can make it wonderfully, complex and cohesive for sure, but expensive. And it doesn't always have to be that. It can certainly be cost effective, feasible, and still be flexible and robust.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have any resources or tools that you can provide for those who would like to learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So I would say first, you can, certainly go to my George Mason University website profile page and see what I'm working on. Or you can request some manuscripts from ResearchGate. I'm always trying to send those out to people who are requesting of those. If you want actual materials, check out my website. It's called trackstudentlearning.weebly.com. It's free. I just put up examples of the reflection matrix that I was talking about today, and any other templates that I publish papers on. I don't think teachers should have to pay for additional resources, so I always try to put them there so that teachers have access to those. They're all Word documents, so you can edit it to be meaningful for you, but that's a good place. The last thing I'll mention is you can go to buildtheframe.com. Michael Kennedy, Shanna Hirsch, and myself are working on an OSEP funded project. It's called Project Frame, and it's focusing on a lot of these components. So we're combining Michael Kennedy's coached platform, online platform, with my work with video reflection and Shanna's expertise in classroom management, bringing those pieces together to talk about how do you have a comprehensive coaching package that is helpful for teacher candidates who are going from introductory candidacy to all the way to almost profession ready. So, and even following them into the profession. So buildtheframe.com, there's resources there, more description about our project there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Nagro, for sharing your research on video-based reflections. We appreciate your time and your work. I hope we have more opportunities to continue our conversation about your research. For more information about CIDDL research and practice briefs and other resources for teacher education related services personnel preparation, please go to CIDDL.org. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a message. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Dr. Nagro.
Thank you.